and begin our talk with the CFP championship game coming up on Monday night. So, fellas, we got Indiana and Miami Monday night at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. This, as we know, this isn't just a game; it's potentially a legacy checkpoint. It's more than the title. It's program validation, recruiting leverage, historical significance for whatever team comes out the victor in this. Um, as we look at this game, big dude, what's your analysis on this?
Well, we actually have teams that are very similar in a lot of ways. Obviously, Indiana is. I tried to really check and find out where there was a weakness because there's parts where I saw stats and they had strengths and weaknesses, and I think their weaknesses is in like interception return yardage for Indiana. Yeah, it's something crazy, and punts. So they didn't punt as much, so they were low in the country with punting the ball, but Indiana was strong in almost, I would say, every category. The last, unless I missed it, I thought Indiana was 7.5 minus, or did it come to become 8? It was 7.5 the last I saw. Obviously, we have Fernando Mendoza. I think it was like, I forgot how many touchdowns this year, but just leading in almost everything. And the last game he only had to throw for 175 yards the last game in order to even do something. So he didn't have to do anything. I think their offensive line is going to be strong. I think that Carson Beck and Tony Malachi, they'll hook up, and their running back Fletcher will do a really good job. And they have a defensive tackle, of course, defensive lineman Reuben Bain, who's that Indiana has to stop early. I think Miami's only chance is to keep the ball. From what I saw all year, Indiana has only turned the ball over 8 times, and I think the Canes was it 13 times allowed. So I think it's unfortunately not as even as a game as we all think. I think I will give the game a good game for 3 quarters, and I think Indiana will pull away. And I think really this time because of their offensive line and their 5 running back, Elijah Surratt, their running back. And also on defense, the defense is solid across the board. I think in the corners are just the ones that can give Malachi Tony some trouble, who's a freshman and probably one of the best freshman wideouts besides G's guy at Ohio State that I've seen in a long time.
So
So
you're
I,
going
I, I'm
Indiana, big dude.
I'm going with Indiana. I don't know if I know there was I don't know. I forgot the over under was like 57. I'm going to push that to more like 63. I think there's going to be more points scored.
So
Okay.
you think it's going to be a shootout?
Well, I think it'll start out that way. I think Indiana will give up a couple of touchdowns in the beginning and maybe one in the third quarter. I'm not so sure. It's not going to stay that way, though. I think Indiana, once their offensive line takes over, they just, I think, are very disciplined, very focused. When I say run away with the game, I think they'll win convincingly. I'm not so sure it'll be like last week, but I see Miami hanging in there and giving their best. But Miami's got to keep the ball on the ground in order to keep it somewhat close. But IU, the new champs, after going, I think they only won in 3 games, and it was 3 games in 2023. I don't think there's been a better turnaround when that happens.
Gee, what you have on that game? What are your thoughts?
I have a different approach, I think. So I was looking at the intangibles for both teams, and so Miami has home field advantage. So that is highly likely to come into play. It's just the psychology of being home. A lot of Miami supporters are going to be there. Um, Miami has a home record of 7-1, but obviously IU is undefeated away. But and Indiana is also a very hardworking, low star team of players. So there are not a lot of 5 and 4 stars. So these players, they worked hard at the craft, which is why they don't make a whole lot of mistakes. So it kind of makes sense. Also, I looked at injuries. Miami has 7, and 4 of those are starters. I mean, I'll check it again, before the game. But as of yesterday, they still had 4 starters out. Indiana had 3 people out, and 1 was a starter. So Indiana, as of now, is coming with most of their firepower. Indiana was top ranked in some important categories in terms of their power ranking. Indiana was 1, Miami was 6. Iowa away, they were ranked number 1, and Miami at home were ranked 7. And then in terms of non-conference, Indiana was ranked number 1, Miami is 4. So that was just telling me that Indiana has just been is the strongest team if you start pulling in power stats as well. In terms of team offense, IU was putting up 42 on average versus Miami. I mean, yeah, 31. And IU allowed an average of 11. Miami allowed an average of 14. So I mean, if the averages play out, IU is pretty much going to be the better team that day. I'll end with Indiana. I believe Indiana has a lot better coaching. As example, they avoided the bye curse. Big dude, when they played Penn State, y'all had them on the ropes. They was able to pull that out. They were able to pull it out at Ohio State, so they're battle tested, and the coaching staff is just really, really good at having them ready. So with all of that together, and plus listening to what Big Dude was saying, I just think Indiana is going to be the better team, and they are about to make history.
All right, so both of you going with Indiana. I've been so back and forth on this game, and I still honestly feel split on it. I think some of the key elements of this game will certainly be the quarterbacks. Which team's going to be able to put the other quarterback in the most pressure situations, I think will be crucial. We know that Mendoza has so far shown that he's a cool customer under any type of pressure. Carson Beck has again surprised me in the playoffs thus far. I truly feel like that's what one of the biggest factors in this game is what defense will be able to put the most pressure on the quarterbacks. Next, I think there will be a special teams play in this game. For some reason, I feel like, a Malachi Tony, somebody on one of these teams is going to make a special teams play that is going to shift the tide of this game. Certainly, turnovers will be key. Indiana is such the easy pick. Everything in me says there's no way that they will come this far and not finish the job. But there's something about this Miami team. And as I thought about, okay, how am I really going to make a decision here? I didn't think that Miami would be able to compete with them. And then I'm like, wait a minute. They just beat Ohio State, the team that I thought would be facing Indiana in this championship game. And my thought is if Miami was able to play at that level against the team that I thought had the only shot against IU, I'm gonna stick with Miami, winning it all at home, upsetting Indiana, interrupting their Cinderella season, and bringing that back down to earth a little bit. So I'm going with the Canes to go back to the top of the college football world.
Bro, but you got to remember how Ryan Day was play calling.
Wow,
And
G.
I think
Wow, G.
coaching matters a lot. And if
I
you watch
agree with
some of
you.
the play calls, excuse me.
I agree with you for sure on the coaching piece.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
believe if we had our offensive coordinator, man, and he actually let him coach, and that was the thing. They didn't really let Hartline call plays. I think it would have been different.
Well, and see, I don't even want to go back to that, but I'll say for this game, I think this is a very big game for Miami. This is a historical game for the program. In order for Miami to get back to where they need to do, Miami really needs to win this game. And I think that the clock will be, I don't know, it will be turned ahead, but it'll be a different type of clock if Miami's able to get through this particular game. Who would transfer in? How the rest of how they'd have some 2026 people that are the recruits and commits flip, and of course the big 2027 class to get back to where the U is. I think is going to be important. If they don't, like I said, I think Indiana is good either way. This is something I think they played like in 1964 and in 1966. I can't remember what
It was
the
a
outcome
long
was.
time ago.
Yeah, yeah, right. Right. And I was born right between those years. So, so yeah,
Here's my thing, Steph and Guru. Carson Beck to me is like I think of your boys, Guru, and
I
your
see it.
QB. You
I
don't
see it.
know which Carson Beck is going to show up. And that's one of the reasons why I don't trust Miami. I should put it that way. I mean, all the stuff Steph mentioned, the stats I mentioned, the analytics I mentioned, that stuff is tangible for me, and that's why I think Indiana will win. But it depends on which Miami decides to show up.
I think you touched on something that going back to the Ohio State game, you're absolutely right about the play calling, and there was definitely some questionable offensive strategy on the Buckeyes' part. But what I was looking for in that game was Miami being able to hang
Hmm.
physically, especially. And I know that that's kind of a theme that I think I've said
That's
probably in pretty much every episode that we've had so far is I look for physicality.
hmm
We know how important that is in football. And I just was surprised that Miami was able to hang with Ohio State in that particular round. You're absolutely right on the play calling. I'll give you that. But
Fair enough.
I kept waiting for Miami to crack. I kept waiting. I'm like, Ohio State's certainly going to wear them down. They're going to get Big Bo Jack going. They're going to wear Miami down eventually, right? Miami, some undersized guys in some areas, I expected them to maybe slow down, start to get worn out, and it just never happened.
Right.
And I'm thinking if Miami was able to maintain that level of physicality throughout the game against Ohio State, and remember, I mentioned in the previous episode, they had that lull in that game where I thought Ohio State had them. And then it's
Right.
like they picked right back up. So my thought and why I
True.
actually picked Miami was I think that they've demonstrated that they can play with the team that's I would put at Indiana's level in terms of that physicality and really be able to hang in there with them. I think this will be something that Indiana obviously has only seen in playing Ohio State this year. So
Hmm.
I really expect Miami to get at it. I think that it will be interesting to see if IU can really handle that punch in the mouth because I know Signetti's going to have them prepared. I'm not trying to downplay them not being prepared for that punch in the mouth, but we've played before at different levels. Steph certainly at a much higher level than G and I did. But no matter what the level was, whoever gets hit in the mouth first,
yep,
you gonna pat your lips, swallow that blood, and let's get at it, or you gonna
yeah,
be like, oh damn, I'm gonna guard my mouth now because I don't want to get hit again, right? And I think
Hmm.
yeah,
that's what it's gonna come down to. I think
yeah.
Miami can hang with them. Something in my guts just telling me that I think the Canes could do it at home. I know Mendoza's a homegrown Miami kid, but I think it won't be the things that dreams are made of Monday night, Mendoza. Sorry, my friend.
But you know what?
Okay.
I do think you mentioned something about turnovers, and I know Steph kind of gave us the stats on that. But yeah, I would not be surprised that I think whoever's defense, somebody's going to get a pick six,
Hmm.
or somebody's going to pick up a fumble, and so one of the defenses is going to score. And I think one of them will have to score to win this game because I don't believe Miami is just going to lay down. So that's definitely not what I'm saying.
No, no, no. But
I
they,
just
but
think
they,
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
go ahead, big dude.
No, but they really have to start off, and they have to get Mark Fletcher, number 4. They have to get him going. If you can get him going, and you can somehow run for maybe 125 yards between your backs. We know Carson Beck isn't much of a runner. I mean, I think if he was, I would be more threatened if I thought Carson Beck could affect the game different the way he's affected it. He's got good stats. He's thrown for over 3,300 yards this year, all kind of good stuff, and he has the receivers, and those guys are awesome. The question is, like you said, Guru, where's the physicality going to come, especially when Indiana starts running the ball, or if they can't get to Mendoza? I mean, they have to get to Mendoza early, and they have to not let Indiana run the ball early on them as well, because a lot of people still don't give Surratt the credit that he has, their running back, Elijah Surratt.
You
He's
don't think so?
good running back.
So, big dude, let me pose this question to you, since this is something that will be close for you. I did not watch the entire Indiana Penn State game. I saw the score scroll at the bottom of the game I was watching and was like, oh man, let me check out the end of this, because we might have an upset here. What was Penn State able to do to mobilize Indiana basically throughout that game to slow that offense down? And I mean, really, it became, at least the parts that I saw, it became a defensive struggle. Neither team was really moving the ball. Penn State was making key third down stops when they needed to. They got Indiana behind the sticks, getting sacks on Mendoza, like on first down, putting them behind the sticks, stuff in the running game. When I picked up the point that I picked up the game, they were stuff in the running game. What was Penn State able to do so well in that game to slow Indiana down? And part two to that, do you think Miami can execute that exact strategy?
I think they can. I think the difference in this game, I think they were surprised because they, first of all, took the leash. Penn State with Jim Knowles, I don't know what Jim Knowles was doing. I still don't know what he was doing to this day, and I hope he doesn't do it at Tennessee. He put possibly one of the best possibly one of the best, I would say at least 8 of 11 personnel on the field to come back. That was expensive. That cost money. He put them on a leash. And I think in this particular game, finally, when Terry Smith started coaching, Terry said, hey, we're going to be more aggressive, and basically we're going to take them off the leash, and then we're going to play aggressive. We're going to go ahead and play our gaps. But on defense, I think, you had denied Dennis Sutton and folks like that. Finally, those guys on the edge were playing like they were supposed to play. Our corners had an exceptional game, but Nick Singleton on offense, again, the leash was taken off of him on offense, and we were able to run the ball consistently, and Mendoza wasn't able to be on the field as much. So Mendoza was a little rusty getting back out there, other than that last series, still within inches, not even just the catches, him getting away and doing other things. We kind of had the game. You have to have full control of the tempo of the game, and we took control of the tempo of the game, especially with Nick Singleton and getting our short passing game together. I think that we were able to reduce the ball game. That's what you got to do against Indiana, because that's what they do to you. So it's almost like whatever Indiana is trying to do to you, you should be doing to them. And I think our game plan was very similar to Indiana's, except on defense, they really took the leash off of our linebackers and defensive ends while they were playing very conservative. We were no longer playing conservative, and we used probably, I would say, about 16, maybe 17 people on defense that day. So I think you got to have a lot of people ready to go against Indiana, because those guys just don't stop. So I would say you got to slow the game down, and you have to have a running game that is sustainable throughout the game. Now, he didn't get 200 yards, but whenever we needed to get that first down, we got it. And Nick had one of his better games.
Do you know what type of coverages Penn State was playing at the end of that game? Because, again, that's the point I picked it up at. we've seen in the games since we started this that Mendoza's quick release, quick decision making, snap the ball, bam, he knew where he was going. He held the ball long as I've seen him hang on to it all year when he played you all. Do you
Yeah.
remember if you were playing man, zone? You know,
Oh,
what was the defensive
that
scheme?
that I wouldn't be so sure about. I mean, I don't want to guess on that. And it's interesting because we stopped laying back. I would say man, because we didn't really give him any space. Usually when you blitz, you play man. You know, you don't go to zone unless you got a man two on the zone. I don't know how different that's changed, G, but when you blitz, usually you're playing man. You know, usually you're going up, you're bumping and running, and you're not giving them a chance to get outside the pocket. You know, because if you play in zone and you're 7 yards off the ball, it's hard to come over and already help somebody. So that's
Right.
what was happening. They weren't able to do that really because of our aggressiveness. Now, if I were to guess what they were playing, it seemed like to me that the DBs were more aggressive that particular game. And even it never had. And I think that, to be honest with you, in a big ball game this year, that was probably the best game the DBs had was against Indiana. I'll say even at half. We'll say second half. You know?
Okay. Hey,
but
G, did you want to add anything else to the discussion on this? I know I posed that to Big Dude.
Well, I was looking back on Ohio State. How did Ohio State hold Indiana at 13? And honestly, a missed field goal, some fourth down miscues. You know, there's really it could have easily been Ohio winning that 16-13 or something like that. So, but I think what it was, this combination of if Miami's defense really needs to put the pressure, on Mendoza. I think our defense was definitely able to do that because Mendoza was not allowed to just do whatever the heck he wanted to do in that game. And to Steph's point, our DBs was really locking down. I mean, their DBs was also doing a good job, but our DBs was really doing a lot to lock down Indiana's receivers. So defense, I think on both sides, man, was probably 5 stars in terms of how well they played. So that's what I'm saying is Miami, they're gonna have to blitz. There's no choice. They're gonna have to
yeah,
blitz.
yeah.
Ohio State's defense, you all know, is physical. So Miami, particularly those linebackers, when they get to that second level, those linebackers they can't be doing a whole bunch of arm tackling, and the DBs can't be afraid. So and then they just really have to call some smart defensive plays. As a matter of fact, Miami, they can't be predictable on defense. If Miami, and honestly, in some ways, Ohio State was predictable, particularly on the offensive side. But on defense, just thinking about how Ohio State was able to keep Indiana at bay, I believe that the defense was not predictable and did a really good job of getting after it. A lot of trust in the DBs, a lot of solid tackling. So I think between that and if Miami's kicking game goes well, and then the offense play the way everybody thought that they had a pretty high powered offense coming into the season. If they play the way the skill set suggests they can play, I think they're going to give Indiana a run. I still think Indiana is going to win because they're going to be consistent and they're going to just consistently pound, which is what they did with Ohio State. No matter what happened, Indiana was consistent, and I think that's going to happen. You would have to get Mendoza rattled, I think, in order for Miami to win.
And he definitely, the only time I've seen him rattled was in that Penn State game. So we'll see what Miami's able to dial up. Of course, Jason Taylor, former Miami Dolphin, is their DC, so we'll see what he's able to dial up.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that'll be